process mediated by credible political leaders whose political campaigns are not funded by mining magnates with direct financial interests in the region. The lives of our soldiers can no longer be traded for the profits of the ANC's elite. I thank you.
Honourable the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation.
Honourable members, I stand shoulder to shoulder with my esteemed parliamentary colleagues, united in our tribute to the fallen heroes of our National Defence Force members, the Malawi Defence Force members, the Tanzanian Defence Force members, and the Uruguay Defence Force, under the UNESCO and the SAMI DRC. It is not just a tragedy for our country. It is a tragedy that has befallen UNESCO. It is a tragedy that has also befallen the SAMI DRC. It is an international tragedy. The budget and resources for the mission doesn't only come from the South African National Defence Force. It comes from SADC through the SAMI DRC and also through the UN Security Council. The argument that the mission is not well-funded or is underfunded, therefore, is devoid of the truth. Because the budget comes from the UN, SAMI DRC, and indeed we also contribute. So it is therefore unfounded that we have sent our troops without a clearly defined budget. Because in instances of these kind of missions, it's not the responsibility of a single country. Hence, we had Malawi, we had Uruguay, we had Tanzania, and other countries participating in UNESCO that are funded through the UNESCO process. As a nation, we have a responsibility to protect, defend, and encourage our defense force. Let us collectively embrace their memory, cherish their lives lost, and enable cause for peace. The security situation in the Eastern DRC predates 1994 and has escalated over time. Several illegal armed groups, including the ADF, FDLR, LRA, Red Tabara, and M23, continue to operate in the Eastern DRC and have since morphed into about 150 local armed groups with a presence in North and South Kivu provinces. The recent developments in the Eastern DRC could reconfigure these groups. The net outcome of this scenario has been cynical insecurity, displacement both internally and externally, sexual exploitation and abuse as well as gender-based violence as an instrument of war, illicit exploitation and trafficking of natural resources, and erosion of authority of the state, amongst others. Human security and development has thus been extensively undermined. Various peace initiatives have recognized the need for a dialogue with all armed groups and the state actors to resolve the conflict. Hence, the recent summit of East Africa and the SADC region resolving on this matter again. There has also been recognition of a peacekeeping mission to support the government of the DRC in achieving peace. Hence, the UN deployed in the various stages of the conflict. SADC and East Africa community. There has been various deployments from the UN, SADC, and many other missions to the DRC, because there is a recognition that the DRC alone cannot handle this conflict. There is also a recognition that no one country can help resolve the conflict. The current mission of SAMI DRC is not an exception on the need. South Africa's peacekeeping contribution in the Democratic Republic of Congo over the years, through personnel deployed as part of infantry battalion, helicopter units, and military medical teams, have been essential to efforts to build peace and ensure the health and safety of our fellow peacekeepers. This is not me speaking. These are the words of the Under-Secretary General of Peace Operation, Jean Peace Lecroix, of the United Nations, if you thought it's propaganda. Our freedom is a product of international solidarity. One of the pillars of our struggle was international solidarity. This led to the frontline states playing a key role in our struggle. Hence, we ended up with the Battle of Cutecanavaro in Angola, the Maseru massacre, and the Matole raid by the Medara's apartheid regime. Since the dawn of our democracy, our country has been an unwavering champion for peace and justice in the continent and the globe. The principle of sovereignty, integrity of nation, as contained in Article 2 of the UN Charter, is sacrosanct. It must be defended by all peace-loving nations of the world, and South Africa is no exception. It is against this background that the SADC also has its own in terms of Article 6 of the SADC Treaty on Defense, which states the following: an armed attack on a state party shall be considered as a threat to the regional peace and security and shall be met with immediate collective action. We are not immune to regional conflict. Hence, we have got the responsibility to defend, protect, and ensure peace in the region, and an attack and response to any security situation in our region. Recognizing that a peaceful Africa is crucial for economic and social development for the continent, we participated in a lot of peace missions in the continent, in Sudan, Ethiopia, Mozambique, South Sudan, and so on, to silence the guns in line with Vision 2063 of the African Union. In the DRC, we have not only participated through Summit DRC, we have participated in building a state from the scratch, helping SARS, helping all measures of state building. We are currently in South Sudan doing the same, helping South Sudan to transition to a democratic elections. This will not happen out of context. It has to be a deliberate, progressive policy of the South African government to intervene in the continent. And we will do so unapologetically. We have a responsibility and will not be blackmailed by those who accuse our president or anyone, or even the ANC, of some kind of economic interest. As I have stated, all our missions have been informed by the UN Charter, by the SADC Protocol, by our interest to see peace in the continent and nothing else. It is also our interest to see economic prosperity anywhere in the African continent. Hence, you have South African companies in most parts of the African continent. There is no part of the continent where you don't have South African companies. You have MultiChoice in Nigeria and all over the country. You have got MTN all over the continent. It's a duty we owe to the continent to ensure that there is economic prosperity, because economic prosperity anywhere in the continent is economic prosperity in South Africa. According to the UN, we are one of the most receiving countries of migrants in the continent. It is therefore crucial that we play a role to maintain peace, to achieve economic stability in the continent. You will not only receive people here just because there is a conflict, but conflicts arise out of a fight for natural resources, for economic challenges. That's why our policy on foreign policy is very clear. Support peace and stability through dialogue, which we are supporting through multilateral platform. But we also have an economic policy that must help in terms of economic diplomacy to ensure that the African continent prosper. The Africa Free Trade Program and various flagships programs aim to resolve the economic challenges of our continent, are part of the progressive policies of this government of South Africa. And this is acknowledged across the globe, not only in the African continent. The UN Security Council recognized the important role played by South Africa in peacekeeping mission in the continent. The UN recognized the role played by South Africa in the economic development in the African continent. The debate on critical minerals in the continent, we are one of those that are leading this discussion. We will be soon hosting the G20. We have a responsibility as a country to drive to ensure that the debate on critical minerals, it must benefit the African continent. We do not fail to succeed and achieve in this phase of the minerals endowment this continent has. So this House, in this critical juncture, has got a collective responsibility to help the government of national unity to ensure that there is peace in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. We have got a collective responsibility not only on political and economic grounds. The ECDC has warned that if this conflict goes unattended, we run a risk of a pandemic in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, but which can override all over the continent. This is a mostly densely populated society, not only in Africa, but in the whole world. So we will be reckless, we will be irresponsible not to participate to resolve the conflict in the Eastern DRC. We have a duty to ensure that this conflict is resolved through the EAC and also through the SADC mission, which I have already stated and I have spoken about. It is an important instrument that must assist us to resolve this conflict and through the processes of the African Union. I have heard honorable members saying we must withdraw. And some of them have said we must do it now. I want to say that an abrupt withdrawal, as called upon by some in the House, is not even a tactical retreat. It is even worse than a surrender. As with the numbers of armed groups in the area, there lies an ambush. How do you immediately withdraw when there are 150 armed groups that are not controlled by anyone? You are sending our troops yourself to an ambush, because as they leave, they will be running to many ambushes that are uncoordinated and unknown. It is against this background, that the South African government support the processes of the East Africa and the SADC region of a ceasefire, of reopening of the Goma airport, of reopening of the supply routes to enable the normalization of the situation. When the situation has been normalized and there has been a proper assessment, our boys and men will definitely come back home. But there must be a process, there must be calculated means that are undertaken, that we make sure that what we are deployed for them does materialize, does exist, and it is achieved. We will not deter as the South African government. We will march forward to ensure peace in the Eastern DRC. Thank you very much.
Honourable members. Order, honourable members. On behalf of the presiding officers, we would also like to extend our deepest condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers. Honourable members, that then closes the debate. And please, members, also, I request you to stand and wait for the presiding officer and the mace to leave the chamber. The House is adjourned.